the CEO of United, what's it called? It's a huge insurance corporation that's really controversial because they've had a lot of problems with, okay, the Department of Justice was investigating them. And a lot of the executives sold their stock ahead of that, like they weren't supposed to know. And they made a bunch of money before the stock dropped because they were being investigated. And there's a bunch of controversy about them not paying out what they're supposed to pay out, and people dying because they weren't getting their insurance pay, anything. This guy's the CEO of it. Well, yesterday he's walking into a meeting at a hotel in New York City, and a guy walked up and shot him in the back, killed him. And they don't know if it's a disgruntled family member of someone who didn't get their insurance, or someone that lost money because of the stock deal, or somebody paid a hitman to do it. And how did I get to talk? Also the Elon Musk and that Ramaswamy guy is going to meet with, I think, senators, because they're going to start that Department of Government Efficiency, to look for ways to cut government waste. That's pretty good. That's a good thing. I forgot how we got to talking about it. The Supreme Court is looking at, I don't know if they're looking at it today, but I know recently they either looked at it or fixing to. There's a case involving, we fell off the cliff, first period. And I don't want to completely fall off the cliff, but this case involves children and sex reassignment surgery. And whether or not, I'm not an expert in this, if kids should be able to do that without parent consent. Now, take that part out, sex reassignment surgery. Should Titan make medical decisions without us being involved?
No. He's too young to understand.
Should, as a 15-year-old, should he make medical decisions without our involvement?
No, this hormones are going crazy.
If, let's say at 15, he decides he wants a tattoo on his forehead that says Logan Paul rules,
At what age?
15.
No.
Is he probably going to be happy with that when he's 40?
No.
Especially Logan Paul. No one would be happy with that. Absolutely not. There was something that's not life-changing. Kids need parents' permission for stuff. I can't imagine anything more life-changing than sex reassignment surgery. And kids don't make the best decisions. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a Jackson 5 or a Harlem Globetrotter. I think I was 5 years old. That's what I wanted to be. And I was passionate about it. Would it have been okay for me to go, now this is really a cliff, I didn't fall off this cliff. Would it be okay for me to go get skin pigmentation and turn myself black? That would have been good. But it's what I want. It's my dream, my goal, I want.
Do they have white people in Harlem Globetrotters?
They did then, not then, they did
No,
now.
they were all African.
I want to be them. I want to be a Harlem Globetrotter. I wanted to be a Jackson 5. If Titan wanted to amputate his right leg, that to me is as life-changing as sex reassignment surgery. Y'all agree with that? He doesn't need to make that decision on his own. Because we've seen children, yes, I'm 57, I'm going to call y'all children. Children, do y'all agree children don't make the best decisions all the time?
Yes.
So and when they were talking about this, one of the Supreme Court members, she's the newest one, she compared this, kids having sex reassignment surgery, to interracial marriage, and how that used to be banned in the 60s.
Has nothing to do.
Now, I am a white guy, but I can talk all day about interracial marriage because my son is going to marry a black girl, and that's fine, that's great. The only problem I have with it is neither one of them have any fast twitch muscle fiber whatsoever.
She's not athletic?
She's tall and athletic, she's not fast.
Okay.
She has no speed.
Mm-hmm.
Pacer had speed for about 3 months, and it went away. So my dream of having they could have an amazing 300 hurdler. Depends on the speed part. As it is now, probably a tackle defensive end, which that's fine. But I don't know if they'll be fast enough to be a defensive end. But my dream of a 300 hurdler, I guess I'll have to wait another generation or something. But this kid could be 6'7", 240, 250. That could be okay. But
If he gets a genetic mutation.
but it's not, you gotta take away the sex reassignment surgery. Little teenagers don't need to make life-altering medical decisions based on feelings, But anyway, I know how we get to talk. Oh, we'll do that later. I know how we get to talk about that now. All right, we're gonna start with number 11, right? We got to number 10, and we'll be done. Y'all have about 15 minutes on your own. Is this?
Yeah.
All right, it's going out on the web. Awesome.
It's live?
Not live.
Oh.
Next year, or tomorrow. Mr. Ryan, would you please come with us? Tell my story! Tell my story! Alright. This is how we got to talk about it. Civil liberties and civil rights. I think in the past, we've had two different definitions. We're not going to have two different definitions. Human beings have rights, correct?
Yeah.
We're born with rights. They're not always represented, they're not always recognized, they're not always protected. But in America, we protect your rights. The constitutional rights are protected. If you go to France, are they protected? No. They have their stuff. So in America, you do have rights and liberties that are protected by the Constitution.
That's the answer.
Yeah, you do have rights and you do have liberties that are protected by the Constitution. Does that mean it's always going to be followed?
No.
That's why we have courts.
No.
That's why we have civil
Well,
courts.
yesterday, when you took it back.
So you do have rights. And I guess the question is, now we got to, Supreme Court is looking at, does a underage person have the right to to consent for their own sex reassignment surgery? That's what the question they're looking at. They're not looking at whether it's right or wrong. They're looking at, do they have the right constitutionally? Or does the parent have the right to know that and to be involved with it?
Protected by what?
Constitution. All right, due process. What do you know about due process?
Did you have to have a trial?
If you are arrested, if you're charged, you have these rights kick
There's
in.
things the court
Can do, can't do,
and
has to do. Yes, Miranda rights is the example of that. So there are things the authorities can do to you, they can't do to you, and they have to do. They're here already. Hey, Hop's here. He brought snacks for. Oh, we didn't bring snacks.
I think you brought me some snacks.
Yeah, I think I can do the hopper. Look.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Is that kinda good?
That's pretty good.
All right, so can do, can't do, have to do. The establishment clause. Where is the only time in this room we talked about establishment? We got Jack Ishmael's picture up there. What's the only time in this room we talked about established?
So Jamestown.
First Amendment. That was the second time. The first time. What's that? First what?
I was talking to myself.
First Amendment. What can't be established?
Religion.
National religion. So it can't be forced on you. The Establishment Clause is the fact that the government cannot force you into religious action. Not forced into religious action. Are you going to know stuff, hear stuff, see stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna be forced on you. You can't be forced into action. Slander and libel. Remember about slander and libel. If I'm arrested for murder, what can't be done?
They can't be on the, they can't put on the
They can't call you a
press.
murderer
They-
until they.
Can't say Ryle murdered a student. They can't call me a murderer till the trial. Till after the trial, if I'm convicted, now they can say convicted murderer.
You go next time.
But they can't lie about you. Yes. Yes. Can your political opponent? All right, let's do this one. What if they call you a Nazi?
Are you a Nazi?
No, prove it. Did I sue them for slander?
Yes.
Yeah, they call me a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi.
But if you're marching down Columbus, Ohio,
With
with
a-
a swastika
yeah.
flag.
Doing this, yeah, maybe we could do that. Once again, look at this. If I'm here tomorrow,
Yeah, you're on the answer. That's right, you're on video.
I'm on fire. I'm on fire. That they can't lie about you in publicly, like the newspaper can't report until after the trial that you're the murderer or you're a crook.
This one's getting bad. Thank you.
Whoop, 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 whoop. What's treason?
It's like,
Committing,
What about-
what was the establishment clause?
That's where the government cannot force you into religious action.
You're doing acts against your government.
Yes, you're actively working against your government.
Treason?
Treason. What's the punishment, the typical punishment? Death.
What was treason?
It's where you actively fight against your government or work against your government. In history last year, I bet y'all talked about the Rosenbergs.
Yeah.
They were a married couple that sold secrets, nuclear secrets to the Russians. And they got hung.
I
They
don't
were
think we
killed.
made it that far.
No, we did.
I don't think we did.
No, because we did the Cold War and Vietnam the day we had that boot camp.
This is the, okay, this is in the 50s, I think. But they were just a normal looking couple. And it was really controversial. It's like, oh my gosh, and they executed them.
but how'd they know about the,
I guess they figured it out or found out, investigated it or something.
oh, that's huge.
Yeah,
It's massive.
yeah.
You know what else is massive?
Doesn't. Okay, prior restraint. What's prior mean?
You just
What is sedition?
Oh, sorry. Sedition, and this could connect to Trump here. Sedition is if you are talking to people or giving a speech and you work them up and a riot happens. That's sedition.
Speech trying to lie.
If you talk people into doing a riot, that's sedition.
So talking people into a riot.
Yeah, giving a speech or quote causing a riot.
Have we had one of those happen recently?
Well, January 6th might be considered that. There was a lot of talk. Trump gave a speech, and all of a sudden these people went and did stuff. And the question is, did he?
Oh, that was sedition?
Yes.
Okay.
Did he cause
Is that
that?
a crime?
Well, sedition is, but if whose fault is it if you're involved in a riot?
Yours?
That's your fault.
So
If
they-
someone says go kill these people, you don't have to. But so it is kind of weird.
Pretty sure Trump didn't say on January 6th, let's go raid the Capitol.
I don't know that he did.
The thing about like protests and riots and all of that, especially in like downtown areas,
Yes.
I don't get how like all of them can't get arrested. Or like, because like they're blocking major.
Yes. You couldn't get all. There's not enough.
No, I mean, you can get
people.
all of them, but
But,
can you
yeah.
not go in there and,
Yeah.
you know.
And even then, okay. If you're the police force, if we had this riot today, we go round up just people. What's gonna happen tomorrow? I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying you're like, oh, does this escalate it, or does this does doing that escalate it, or does it tamp it down?
We're gonna go to vote like that.
Oh. Now, okay, have y'all ever heard of Charles Manson?
Yes.
Okay, he never killed anybody, but he was a cult leader, and he manipulated people, and they went out and committed gruesome murders. One of them was a pregnant woman who they stuck like a barbecue fork in her stomach. So they got trial for murder. He also was on trial for murder, even though he didn't do it. But his manipulation, and that was, they had to prove that. So they did. And he is a, yes, yes.
Just claim insanity.
I don't know if he ever claimed insanity, but he was. If anybody was insane, it was him.
When you get arrested for like, if I told Blake to go kill Darcy, and Blake killed Darcy,
Then yeah, it's your order.
yeah, I know.
You, they could have charges there. And then the question would be, what did you say? Did you actually say that? What was the, there'd be all kinds. That would be a really, that wouldn't be an open shut case. You know what I'm saying?
And it's Blake's fault for going out there killing. He has
Yes,
this,
that's right.
you know, he doesn't have to listen to him.
Right. But then there's the whole threat thing. You know what I mean?
The what?
There's a whole threat
Yeah.
thing.
The one person in class that doesn't.
That's a snack for him.
Now, civil law, what do you remember about civil law?
Wait, what was the fire restraint?
Oh, sorry. Prior restraint would be arresting you or stopping you for something you haven't done yet.
Something you haven't done yet?
Yes. This is a big deal when talk radio started to be big in the 80s. And,
So let's say, sorry,
oh, go ahead.
let's say somebody said they're gonna assassinate the president at their next rally.
That's different. That's a
And
threat.
then- And then they go to that rally, and as soon as the cops see them, they arrest them. Because it's-
That would be, there's things that can be done if you threaten someone to keep you from being around them. Because you have done something. They can't arrest you for doing nothing. But if
Well,
you
I'm
do
saying they
something,
can- That's what prior restraint is, they're keeping you from doing, they're restraining you from doing.
Well, prior restraint would be, we're gonna arrest you and hold you in jail because we think you might do this.
Do they release you after the rally's
Well,
over?
they don't do that. They might put not an injunction, what am I thinking of? What they do, they say you can't be around somebody.
Like
Restraining order?
Restraining order. They put a restraining order saying you can't be around this person. So if they threaten Trump, they wouldn't be allowed to go to the Trump rally. But you can't, so like, and this is the problem with freedom. If I'm going out with this girl and I have this history of violence against her, and put a restraining order on me, they can't stop me, that can't keep me from doing something.
Right.
And in North Korea, they would just shoot you, and now you're not gonna do anything. So it's safer in North Korea, but you're not free. And we really can't, you don't wanna go around and shoot people, because we think you might. And that's one of the weaknesses of freedom is, you can't do anything until something's done. Does that make sense? But prior restraint would be doing something before it's done. And really with the talk radio thing, liberals are really afraid because there's a conservative talk radio, and they were afraid of its impact, and so they wanted to stop it and not let these people on the air and restrict what they could say.
Is that already happens though, right? With that
Can you say the
PEWA
prior
or
restraint
something like
again?
that?
What's that?
Can you say the prior restraint again?
Doing something to somebody before they do something.
Arresting somebody if they have done something, or something they haven't
And
done.
John, what were you saying?
Don't they already have like you limit speech on radio?
Okay, yeah, but this was like, okay, when Clinton was in, you couldn't say negative things about President Clinton.
It's like,
Or, now, there is something called equal time. Yo, maybe stay with me here on this. I don't know what's
Wait, that was the thing, like you couldn't talk bad about Clinton?
No, they were trying to make that, like, restrain them from talking before they talked.
Freedom of speech, and so if you want.
Right. Now, there was a thing called, what was I saying? It was there's equal time. If you, on a news show, have say you interview Trump, you have to give Kamala Harris the opportunity to be interviewed by you. Because otherwise you're, as a news, not a entertainment show or something like that, but a news organization, which can't be biased. They're not supposed to be biased. If you interview one, you have to interview the other.
Is that why like when they interview like representatives or something, they have to do like Democrat and
The other side, yes. On a news show, not a talk show.
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, they don't have to do that. Because you're giving them free publicity. you know, on the news. And news can't be biased. There's not supposed to be. All right, civil law and criminal law. Civil law. How would you describe civil law?
Laws protecting our rights.
Okay, the way you're treated. You might sue a company because you don't like how they treated you. They might have sold you something and you tried to give it back and they wouldn't take it, so you're suing them for how you were treated as a customer. You might sue your employer for how you were treated as an employee.
So suing for how you were
Treated. Usually has to do with how you're treated. And divorce, court, child custody, all that. Criminal is physical. Criminal is you stole something, broke something, stole somebody, broke somebody. Physical.
So sued for stealing something?
Breaking stuff, breaking people. It's a physical act. Civil law is usually not a physical act.
It's more words.
Yes. Mental. More mental.
Emotional.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
That's
another word.
good.
Child custody's not.
Treatment. How they're being, what's the best place for them to be treated?
Civil laws for child custody.
Now, if the kid's getting beat up, that's criminal. Does that make sense? If the kid's getting beat up, that's criminal law. But if you're just deciding where they're going, that's civil. Huh?
No, it's sharper.
It's sharpened sideways?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. Okay, indictment. If you're indicted by the grand jury,
Means that there's gonna be a trial.
you're gonna have a trial. If you're indicted, you're gonna have a trial.
That's not what I'm saying. I don't know how to say it.
What's that?
I'm telling you, guys.
He was trying to tell me that a child custody case is not civil because it's not mentally.
I didn't say it wasn't civil.
Right.
He said it's not.
I'm just saying it's more, if the kid's getting beat up, that's a criminal case.
Yeah.
But if it's just deciding where to go, that's civil. And I guess it has to do with what's
Like if
there.
the parents divorce, which
Yeah.
obviously kids don't.
So indictment goes with the grand jury. If you're indicted, you're in trouble, you're going to trial. It doesn't mean you're guilty. If the jury finds you guilty, you're convicted. Okay? So what's acquittal?
Acquittal?
Yes.
Acquittal?
Not acquittal. Acquittal. You're acquitted. What word is in acquitted? Acquit.
Charges you drop.
So if you're in the grand jury and you're acquitted, you're not going to trial. If the jury,
Indicted, you're getting sent to trial.
yes. If you're acquitted by the jury, you're not guilty. If you're acquitted by the grand jury, you're not going to trial. If you're acquitted by the jury, you're not guilty. And what cannot happen to you if you're acquitted? You cannot be tried again. Look down at the last one there, 24, double jeopardy. That protects you from having an appeal on a not guilty verdict. You cannot appeal a not guilty verdict. So you can't be tried again after you've
It protects you from a what?
a retrial of a not guilty. You don't have to worry about.
So you're saying, if you commit the crime the second time, you can't be in trouble?
No. You can't, that crime. Say you rob this bank and they find you not guilty. Okay. Now if you go rob it again, now we can have that trial, but you can't be tried again for that one.
Even if there's evidence that
Right.
they do it,
Right. If there's video of you robbing the bank after you're found not guilty,
can do it.
they can't do anything because they had their chance.
That's kind of crazy.
Well, if they didn't have that, we could constantly be getting
Right.
tried for that.
Yeah.
So it's their job to do it right.
Yeah.
So, but let's say you were robbing the bank and they found video evidence of you robbing the bank. But they also found video evidence of you shooting somebody while you did that, but they didn't know you shot somebody the first trial. They could try you.
They
for
might
murder.
contest. They might try you for that separate deal because that's a separate crime. That's not the same crime.
Kind of like when people try to arrest people for like doing some, but they did something minor, so they got them on minor.
Yes.
Just so they can have more time to, find evidence or.
That's why you get pulled over for the light on your license plate, you know?
Yeah.
Cause that's how they get drug dealers. Cause they can pull them over, and once they pull over, now you can get some stuff done on it. Cause they know who the drug dealers are, they just have to get enough stuff to make it stick. And they're not trying to get that guy, they're trying to get this guy. They're not trying to get the guy on the street, they're trying to get the guy over here,
Running the deal.
yeah. Okay, writ of habeas corpus, what was that one?
Represent the body.
Yes, you gotta go before a judge to see if it was okay for you to get arrested. Habeas corpus.
Present the body.
I'm gonna go for a judge.
You gotta go before a judge to see if it was okay to arrest you. And if it wasn't, you're free.
Good beef with
And Miranda rights. You have to know and understand your rights before you're arrested.
You have the right to an attorney, and then you say can
It
and
will
will
be used against you in a court of law.
If you
Yeah.
cannot forward one will be provided to you by the state.
When I was a kid,
Watch cops.
they, in the late sixties is when they implemented that, and every cop show did that about 6 times a show. So as a little kid, we all had it memorized.
You have to know.
To know and understand your rights. So if the police see a Korean guy commit a crime, and they hear him talking English, and they go to him to arrest him, and he goes, "I got my car." They have to find somebody, they have to read him his rights in Korean. Now it's easy with the phone, because you can do a little translate thing, but in the past, you had to find someone that speaks this language. Otherwise, it doesn't matter, it doesn't count. Their case will get thrown out because they didn't know.
What's stopping me from learning another language? Being an interpreter, and then just straight up lying for the dude.
Well, because an interpreter, I have no idea what an interpreter does, but an interpreter, now that would be,
Yeah, that's what I said.
I don't know.
What happens if I just say, "Hey, you're free," and like, let's say Korean, he just walks away. Like, what do you say? I'm like, I told him his rights.
All right, last one here, and I'm gonna read you about the Miranda rights. Bench trial. In a lawyer movie or a courtroom movie, what does the judge say to the lawyers sometimes? Says, would the lawyers please approach the bench? Okay, the stand's the witness stand. The bench is where the judge is. A bench trial is just a judge, no jury. If you have a traffic ticket, that's with the justice of the peace, that's a bench trial. When I got divorced, it was a bench trial, it was just a judge. Yeah, just a judge, no jury.
That's what mine was. I had a right to, like, have a jury or
Yeah.
whatever, but I shouldn't. Probably, yeah.
Okay, we're done there. Let me read you this is how Miranda writes, how that happened. This is Miranda versus Arizona. This is a Supreme Court case in 1966. A kidnapping and sexual assault occurred near Phoenix, Arizona on March 1963. On March 13th, 1963, Ernesto Miranda, 23, a Mexican national. What does Mexican national mean?
He's from Mexico.
He's a citizen of Mexico. So what could we assume? Or what's out there? What's the possibility here?
He's here illegally.
Or doesn't speak English? Or language could be a problem. He was arrested in his home, taken to the police station, identified by the victim, and taken into the interrogation room. When he found out he had been charged with several crimes, he repeatedly asked for an attorney, but his request was refused. 2 hours later, investigators emerged from the room with a written confession signed by Miranda. It included a typed disclaimer, also signed by Miranda, stating he had, quote, full knowledge of his legal rights, understanding any statement I make may be used against me, and that he knowingly waived those rights. 2 weeks later, at a preliminary hearing, Miranda again was denied counsel. What's counsel?
Jury.
Lawyer. Counsel's lawyer. Finally, at his arraignment, which that's when you're formally, that's when you plead guilty or not guilty. A 73-year-old attorney who had not practiced criminal law in 16 years was appointed to defend him. The lawyer persuaded Miranda to plead guilty by reason of insanity. Miranda was convicted of robbery and later of kidnapping and sexual assault. Was this done right? No. So here's the constitutional issue. Was a confession an admissible document in a court of law if it was obtained without warnings against self-incrimination and without legal counsel, which is guaranteed by the Fifth and Sixth Amendment. Where does the burden of proof rest for determining whether a defendant has legally waived his or her rights? What is the standard for judging whether voluntary confession should be deemed admissible? When should the attorney be appointed for a person if he or she can't afford one? That's what the Supreme Court was looking at. What are they not looking at?
The actual case.
They're not looking at the sexual assault and the kidnapping. They're looking at this stuff. So the arguments for Miranda, the police clearly violated Miranda's Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and his Sixth Amendment right to legal counsel. What did they use there? Constitution. That's all they care about. Arizona ignored both the Escobedo rule and the Gideon rule. Those are two other court cases involving a lawyer being provided for somebody. So his confession was illegally obtained and should be thrown out. His conviction was faulty and he deserved a new trial. For the state of Arizona, Ernesto Miranda was no stranger to police procedures. He negotiated with police officers with intelligence and understanding. He signed the confession willingly. The prosecution was proper. His conviction was based on Arizona law, and his imprisonment was just. The Supreme Court should uphold his conviction and should not further cripple the work of the police. In a 6-3 decision, the court voted to overturn Miranda's conviction. Writing for the majority, what does that mean, writing for the majority? That was the majority opinion. And what does the majority opinion do?
Decide.
You're explaining what? Majority, dissenting, and concurring opinions. All those are what?
Those are
The reasons they
Why-
voted
Why they voted the way they did.
using the Constitution. Chief Justice Warren declared that the, quote, burden is on the state to ensure that all procedural safeguards necessary to secure the privilege against self-incrimination are followed. And after this decision is when you get the Miranda rights. And in the end, Ernesto Miranda, retracting his confession, was tried again by the state of Arizona, found guilty, and sent to prison. His retrial, based on a prisoner's successful appeal, did not constitute double jeopardy. So the first trial, when they overturn it, it doesn't exist anymore. Now you start over with a new trial, hopefully done right. And they could not use the written confession. They couldn't say there was a written confession. They can't bring that up because it didn't happen. There you go.
Did he get arrested?
What's that?
Did he go to jail?
He did. Yes.
I mean, how if you commit a crime, just don't get caught.
Or don't commit a crime.
Why would you do that?
Okay.
Are you admitting that you commit crimes? I do not.
I stole a candy bar when I was 4th grade. Mom sent me to the store on my bike to get something, and I'm standing in line. I stole a candy bar. So I'm a thief. I think I did it more than once. I think I did it 2 or 3 times.
You still recording?
Right? I did. I'm a thief. John Brown. Thief.
I stole from Walmart.
Buddy's grocery store in Weatherford, Texas. I stole from you.